The story this time is about Luna, who was about to give birth. Despite her happy feelings, she also harbored great anxiety. After it was discovered that Luna was pregnant, her husband's behavior clearly changed. Luna wondered if she would be able to continue to enjoy raising her child. Eventually, Luna gave birth safely, but for some reason, her husband didn't come to see the baby. Upon leaving the hospital with their baby, Luna was immediately met with an outrageous accusation from her husband, who demanded a DNA test to prove the child's paternity. Luna was pushed to the brink by her husband and mother-in-law and was shaken up. What will happen to Luna and her husband in the end? Shortly after giving birth, her husband and mother-in-law said, "Whose child is it? Get a DNA test." If they get their wish and do a DNA test, the husband will end up losing everything. Soon, our first child will be born, but my husband Benjamin has been acting strangely, and I feel anxious every day. Initially, my husband seemed happy about my pregnancy, despite not being fond of children. However, he appears more anxious about parenting now. I wonder why his attitude had changed. I'm not just imagining things. He was genuinely happy when I told him about the pregnancy, almost as happy as I was, even though he doesn't seem to like other people's kids. It seems he was happy that it was his own child. However, his behavior changed recently. Even though the baby is going to be born soon, he doesn't seem to be very interested. Before, all he could talk about was what will happen after the baby is born, but now he doesn't mention it at all. It seems like he's not looking forward to the birth. The excitement he had when he found out about the pregnancy has faded. I had hoped that he might come around once the baby was born, but lately he's been going out to drink more and more. It seems like being at home has somehow become painful. Even though the baby could be born at any moment, it feels like he's not here by my side. I conveyed to him that I wanted him to be at home as much as possible in case of an emergency. But my husband said, "If something happens, we can just call an ambulance. There's nothing I can do even if I'm there." I was treated so coldly. He wasn't the type of person who would say things like that before. I really want to speak up more, but I don't want to fight at a time like this. I know that it's better to tell him now about the unpleasant things that will come after the baby is born, but his attitude has changed so much that I'm confused. On the other hand, my mother-in-law Grace shows an abnormal amount of interest in my child, which is a bit stressful. Well, I guess it's a common thing, and maybe I should be grateful, but she goes overboard with buying things for the baby. She's already talking about the child's future and similar things. The child must definitely become a civil servant. We as parents must ensure that our children do not take the wrong path. She keeps saying things like that every time we meet. Deciding on the future of a child who hasn't even been born yet feels a bit presumptuous. Well, it might be better than being indifferent, but since I'm the one dealing with all of these interactions with my mother-in-law, it makes me a bit dissatisfied with my husband. He just tells me to let her say whatever she wants since she just wants to express herself. He says this and pushes me off to deal with his mother. Recently, my stress has been piling up. I want to talk back to my husband, but I don't want to fight. I want to handle everything as peacefully as possible. Maybe these thoughts are naive. Anyway, I believe things will change once the baby is born. I thought that for now, I have no choice but to manage somehow without getting more stressed. One way to approach it is not to overthink and let things unfold naturally, as stress is toxic to the body. Once the baby is born, I'll be too busy to worry anyway. Luna had been harboring dissatisfaction towards her husband and mother-in-law, and had hoped that things would improve after the baby was born. However, an unexpected event occurred afterwards that no one had anticipated. I safely gave birth and returned home. My husband's attitude, which was already bad before birth, has actually gotten worse. First, when my water broke as expected, my husband was out drinking and not at home. so I called an ambulance as we had planned. My husband called me once, but he said in a very cold tone, "If you're already heading to the hospital, I don't need to come, right? I would just be waiting around anyway, and we already talked about how I wouldn't be present for the birth." I was met with such a cold attitude that it left me filled with sadness and anger at the time. As I was heading to the hospital, tears kept flowing down my face. Once my contractions got stronger and closer together, I couldn't think about my husband anymore. When I held my child for the first time, I was filled with an overwhelming sense of happiness. But when I suddenly remembered my husband, a wave of anxiety came over me. He really didn't come to the hospital. We couldn't share in the joy of our child being born. Even though our child had worked so hard to come into this world, it was so terrible that their father wasn't by its side. I did tell him that our child was born, but he didn't come that day. He didn't even bother to call. By the way, he never visited me even once during my hospital stay until I was discharged. When I was discharged from the hospital, I was filled both with happiness to finally go home and anger towards my husband. Even my mother-in-law, who was always interfering loudly, didn't come. I never thought I would have to experience this feeling of giving birth all by myself. I came home with very complicated feelings. Doesn't it seem quite cold not to be excited when your own child or grandchild is born? I thought so, but as soon as I got home, the cause became clear. "I don't know whose child that is, so get a DNA test." My husband said that to me as soon as he came home. Not only my husband, but also my mother-in-law was waiting for me, saying, "Luna, please have the test done properly. We can't let it go if anything happens." What a thing to say to me. I was confused before I could feel angry. Why do we need to do a DNA test all of a sudden? Why? My husband said, "You know better than anyone, don't you? To find out whose child it is, it might not be my child." I asked, "Yes, if it's not yours, whose is it?" "I don't know, so have the test done. I won't recognize the child as mine until I see the results." He crossed his arms and glared at me as he said that. I vented my anger. Wait a minute. What's with the attitude as soon as I came home? I gave birth alone and came home alone. It's because you didn't come. You didn't even call me. You didn't pick me up. I brought my child home and you want me to do a DNA test? I don't understand. I yelled at him. Then my mother-in-law interrupted. "Just have the test done properly," she continued. "I know you're hiding something from me. It's all your fault that we didn't go pick you up. You betrayed us." I had no idea what my mother-in-law was talking about. I said, "What do you mean by betrayal? I just gave birth to my husband's child and came home. That's it." "Stop playing dumb. Don't throw a tantrum anymore. Anyway, bring the test results right away. I won't accept the child until then." My mother-in-law left quickly after saying that, and my husband ended the conversation and locked himself in his room. I stood there, holding my child in my arms, stunned for a while. Really didn't understand the situation. Of course, I've never cheated or even thought about it. But why did they suddenly start talking like that? I couldn't understand it, no matter how much I thought about it. I became even more anxious than before giving birth. First of all, I don't understand why they suspected me of cheating. I couldn't even consider that. I don't even know if they were suspicious of me from the beginning or not. If they were, it wouldn't be surprising if they had brought up this topic a long time ago. But insisting on a paternity test right after the baby was born? Something just doesn't feel right. I don't know what's going to happen from here on out, but I was filled with anxiety. Luna, who had safely given birth, was met with her husband and mother-in-law's explosive anger as soon as she returned home. They seemed to suspect her of infidelity for some reason. Why did this happen? The truth behind everything will become clear in the end. After the argument with my husband and mother-in-law, I talked to my friend about my husband's strange behavior. Her name is Camelia, and she made a surprising statement. Maybe your husband is cheating on you. Didn't quite understand what she meant, but I thought there was a possibility, so I decided to investigate. Since I have a small child, there's a limit to what I can do alone, so I desperately requested a detective's help. As a result, I found out that my husband's mistress was Camelia herself. Camelia wanted me to know that she and my husband were having an affair. What a terrible person. She should have told me before I hired a detective. It seemed that she wanted me and my husband to divorce. When I announced my pregnancy, my husband apparently ended his relationship with Camelia and initially seemed happy about becoming a father. He seemed pleased when I told him I was pregnant. However, I don't understand why he started to suspect me of cheating. It seems that when my husband's attitude started to change when Camelia lied to him, the lie was that I might be cheating. It's unbelievable and insane to say such a thing, and anyone who believes it must be out of their mind. However, because my husband had cheated before, he became paranoid and started to doubt whether I might be cheating too. Regarding the DNA test, it seems that during my childbirth, my husband reached out to Camelia for some reason. It was absurd. Luna's giving birth now. Do you think I should rush over? He apparently consulted her about this. Of course, Camelia did not allow my husband to go and instead told him, "It's better not to go. The child in her stomach might be Luna's cheating partner's child." She lied again like that. My husband, who was already paranoid, easily believed Camelia's words. That's why he said those things to me as soon as he got home. This is the whole story behind my husband's strange behavior. But since the detective found out that my husband's affair was with Camelia and the information was confirmed by Camelia herself, I needed to confirm it with my husband as well. I wanted to verify if everything was true. I had heard everything from Camelia, so I approached my husband with a serious expression to talk to him. My mother-in-law was also in the house, too, so I figured it would be a good time for the three of us to talk. When I told my husband the results of the DNA test are in, he immediately said, "Now your affair has been exposed. Here, sign the divorce papers," without even looking at the results. I responded by saying, "You haven't even looked at the results. Look, there's no mistake that this is your child," and handed him the test results. When I said this and offered the DNA results, my husband and mother-in-law looked obviously surprised. He said, "What? Is this really my child?" And his mother, with an attitude that suggested she thought the story was different, said, "What? Then was Luna's affair just a misunderstanding?" I was shaken, so I told the two of them, "I have something to say, even though the results are in. I'll sign the divorce papers." The two of them were dumbfounded. My husband said, "If the child is really mine, then there's no need to get a divorce, right? I was wrong to doubt you, but I really wanted to confirm it." His mother also said, "Well, this is his first time becoming a father, so he must have been worrying about various things. Luna, calm down. The problem is solved, so it's all good." My husband was in a panic, and his mother was trying to console me. At that moment, I confronted them with what I had heard from Camelia. I said, "You were the one cheating on me. Camelia told me everything. She said it was because she was having an affair. It's disgusting that you even suspect me without any proof." When I told him this, my husband turned pale, and my mother-in-law was even more shocked. She asked, "Wait, what does that mean?" So I said, "Well, why don't you explain it to your mother yourself? You cheated on me with my friend behind my back, didn't you? You found out I was pregnant and broke it off, but in the end, you took Camelia at her word and doubted me. You acted that way, didn't you?" I explained to her, and my mother-in-law shook my husband and said, "Is that true? Say something." My husband had a look on his face like he had given up. He said, "Luna, I'm really sorry. I'm not going to make any excuses because I know you know everything already. But for the sake of the child, I decided to stop cheating and I ended things with Camellia properly. After that, a lot of things were said to me that made me doubt you. But now I regret cheating and I'm relieved that the child is mine. If you forgive me for my infidelity, I'll dedicate myself to you and our child for the rest of my life." It was the expected response, but his words were so contrived that I felt nauseous. I said, "Forgive your infidelity? There's no way I can forgive that. You, putting your own infidelity aside, doubted me and made me go through such a difficult time during childbirth. I don't know why my husband became cold towards me. And I was very anxious. I gave birth alone, you know. And if you think you can just brush that aside and expect me to be okay with it, then you're wrong. That's not how it works." And the feelings of anger at the birth of the baby came back. My husband tried to calm me down by saying, "Luna, please calm down. If we talk things through, we can come to an understanding." But I replied, "I've already thought it through and I want a divorce. I have no intention of letting our child be with you again. Nothing you say will change my mind." At this, my mother-in-law said, "I know what my son did was unforgivable, but our child still needs a father, doesn't he?" I replied with resolve, "No, our child doesn't need a terrible father like him. Getting a divorce is what's best for our child." My husband and mother-in-law clearly turned pale and became flustered. My husband looked like he didn't know what to do next. He pleaded, "What can I do to make you forgive me? Please reconsider. I won't ever contact Camellia again. I'll do anything if you give me another chance." Even my mother-in-law begged. "I'm also asking you. He made a mistake, but please forgive him." However, I remembered the words that my mother-in-law had said to me before. Parents must be responsible and guide their children on the right path so they don't make mistakes. She raised her child with all her might. But look at the results now. It's really a shame. When I replied with these words, my mother-in-law fell silent. My husband also seemed to be at a loss for words. Despite their pleas, I gathered my belongings and left the house with my child. Of course, I had already signed the divorce papers. My husband begged me, "Please don't go, I'll do anything." My husband continued to try to stop me until the end, saying, "If you want me to do anything, pay child support properly. I will also demand alimony later, so be prepared for that." When I responded coldly like that, he let go of my hand. He must have felt despair. I'm really upset that things turned out this way, but I don't think getting a divorce was a mistake. This is the first time I've ever felt this angry, but maybe it gave me more motivation to act. After all, I couldn't raise a child with someone like him. Once I realized that, I was able to take action quickly. My priority was to think about what was best for our child, not just my own feelings. Now I'm back at my parents' home, and I'm happy, first of all, that I had a safe birth. Oh, and of course, I'll be asking Camellia for payment too. If I get divorced, people might think that is just what Camellia wanted, but I really don't think those two will be happy together. Besides, my husband is being lied to by Camellia, so the chance of them starting over is very low, I think. Well, even if he wants to get back together, he can do as he pleases. Personally, if I can get alimony and child support, that's fine by me. I don't care about those people anymore. I'm just glad I know the truth now. I will work hard with the help of my parents to raise my child. From now on, I'll just wait for my husband to file for divorce. Until then, I don't plan to respond to any of his messages. Of course, I don't plan on letting our child meet him either. My feelings won't change. There are plenty of happy children who don't have fathers. Thank you for listening to me this far. After the truth came to light, Luna made the choice to divorce. There may be both supporters and critics, but Luna seems to have no regrets about her decision. She wished for her husband and Camellia to go to hell. Her husband must already be reflecting on his actions enough. My mother-in-law must also be shocked by the unexpected turn of events. Camellia has followed the path of self-destruction and is in an irredeemable state. I sincerely hope that Luna's decision will lead to a bright future for the children. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the content, I would be grateful if you could give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, we welcome your comments, so please leave them below. See you in the next video.